So let's take me for a case example. This was me 4 years ago. I was always tired. I had really dry eyes. I had this unidentifiable skin rash that no one seemed to be able to deal with or get rid of. I was falling asleep on the lounge at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night and really struggling to get myself out of bed again at 8 in the morning. So, 11, 12 hours sleep, and that still wasn't enough. I was still exhausted. This was me with my cousin back in August 2009. The relevance of that photo is that my cousin Brittany was diagnosed with MS at age 19. She was really struggling, and then she came across a different way of eating. And we'll be talking about that later tonight. It's called paleo. And with that paleo, she was able to clear up just about every symptom she was having from her MS, which is pretty amazing. She was left with this hip pain that kept getting diagnosed as just part of her MS. And unfortunately, after about 18 months of going back to her specialist and with me in her ear saying, Britt, I think there's not something more going on. It should have changed after all of this, diet change and your medication. So she finally pushed a little bit further and discovered that she has a pretty nasty form of bone cancer. So she's now going through chemo. She's having a week of chemo every third week. And her oncologist is absolutely astounded at how well she's doing. No one else with her type of cancer has been able to have the level of chemo she's having and not have serious nausea and lots of vomiting. She's not had any nausea or any vomiting thus far, which is pretty awesome. She's doing really well. Really proud of her. So this was me in 2008. Also, sorry, the previous picture was the same holiday, 2008. And then this was me in December 2001. 11, not 2001, so, clearly a bit of a difference there. And there's a bit of a difference from here to here. So, 2012, right? So 2011, by the end of 2011, I thought I had it pegged. I knew what was going on. I've got this nutrition thing down pat. I've worked it all out. And then 2012 hit. And I don't know if anyone else experienced 2012 being a bit of a jack-in-the-box surprise. Anybody else have that? 2012 has really blown my mind, right? So I'm going to share with you in a second my weight loss graph. And the interesting part about that is that I actually know what weight I was from about the age of 10. And that's kind of scary. That kind of gives you some idea of where my self-esteem, emotional aspect was coming from, the fact that I knew my weight. And I've since tried to detract from that. I've done a lot of personal growth work this year, and with that, I've learnt to not care so much about the scales and to care more about how I'm feeling and what's happening. So even though this year the scales have changed in a way that I would wish hadn't happened, up here and in here is a very different person, and my wallet, my finances are extremely different. So I've discovered in this journey this year that there are a lot of habits, a lot of behaviours, a lot of addictions that I've had for 30 years of things that I've been doing that actually haven't been helping me at all. They were creating a facade of me thinking I was happy and satisfied, but actually I wasn't. And with dealing with all of that emotional stuff, I've had a lot of stress go on in my life. And it's all just part of the learning curve. It's all part of me learning exactly what I need to do for my body. And I think that's part of my message tonight as well, is that everybody's body is different. What I'm going to be talking about, paleo, is about how we evolved eating, what human beings did for 2.5 million years, and why I think that should be an excellent starting place for everyone if they're having any issues, emotional, stress, weight, health issues, or otherwise. I think it's a great starting place, and if you don't find that that gets rid of everything you want to, then tweak it from there. But the paleo, it just makes so much sense. It makes sense to go back to eating what we've eaten for millennia instead of just what we've been eating for the last 100 years, or even 50, or even 10. My story this year is a bit like that Three Little Pigs, actually the last 5 years. So 5 years ago I was in a storehouse. It was pretty crummy. Last year I made a much stronger house, thought it was much better. Yes, I quite like this, it's working well for me. And then 2012 hit and I went, you know what? Those foundations, they're not so good. They've got to come out. We've got to knock it over. We've got to rebuild. So I've rebuilt from the ground up. And at the moment, I feel like I'm maybe, 2 or 3 brick levels in. I'm building back up, but I know that the house I'm building is 100 times stronger than it was last year. Even though physically, looking at me, I looked better to me. And again, I'm getting stuck in self-esteem stuff. But this year I know that I'm so much better, as I said, up here and in here than I have ever been in my life, which is kind of cool. So my story starts when I was, how old was I? About 12 years old, living in Malaysia, and I became a woman, let's just put it that way. And along with that, I got violent dizziness, violent vertigo, couldn't get my head off the bed. I would lift my head off the bed and I'd vomit, couldn't keep anything down. That persisted for about 10 days. And Mum finally got a bit worried and, thought this isn't good, let's take her to the hospital. And of course in Malaysia, hospital wasn't the level of care that we have here, and they didn't really know what to do with me, so they stuck me in hospital and put me on steroids. Didn't tell anyone what I was having, just, here's some drugs. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, I suppose she has to take them. Put on 10 kilos in a week as a 12-year-old. And Mum went, what are these drugs you've got her on? Why has she put on so much weight? And the doctor went, oh, yeah, they're steroids, that makes sense. And I was like, that's not good. Okay, she's not having those anymore. I'll backtrack a little bit just to tell you about my nan, because my nan was probably, again, one of the biggest pushes, trying to find the words, not coming to me, the biggest momentum into doing some sort of alternative health thing. Because my nan in 1990 was diagnosed with leukemia, and her GP said, well, it's quite simple really, there's nothing else for it. You need to take all of these drugs, gave her a script of about 5 different things, go home, take those, we'll monitor in about 3 months' time, see where you're at, we'll tweak it, we'll get it to the right level so that your bloods are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and, that you should be right till the 2000 Olympics unless something else bumps you off on the way. So she was sort of given, 10 years, you should be right, mate. And so Nan's never really liked doctors or drugs. So she went home and threw out the scripts and read everything she could on nutrition. She changed her diet to the anti-candida diet, which is no wheat, no yeast, no sugar, no dairy, no alcohol, no dried herbs, no mushrooms, pretty much anything that grows fungus you can't eat. And so that also involves, she could eat rice, but you have to eat it within a half hour of it cooking because rice grows mould very quickly. So anything that grew mould, out of the diet. She went back to her GP 3 months later, and he went, wow, look at your bloods, I've never seen anyone respond to these drugs so well and so quickly and so effectively, that's amazing. And she said, oh, got a bit of a confession, I didn't take any of those drugs. And the doctor was just astounded, and he actually went on and studied to be a naturopath because he was so amazed at the changes she'd got just by changing her diet. So how can diet have anything to do with it? So Mum rang Nan in tears, Janah's in hospital, she's got vertigo, she's throwing up, she can't keep food down, they put her on steroids, and Nan just said, I've told you for years she should be on the anti-candida diet, how about you do it now? So Mum put me on the anti-candida diet, and I lost the weight, which was kind of cool, and the vertigo went away. I've never had that again. And then we moved back to Australia, and I went on the pill at age 13 because I was still having menstrual issues, and so the solution is medicate it. We don't know what's going on, but let's just cover up the symptom and make it behave how it's supposed to. And so for my teen years, I steadily put on weight, which you'd expect. I was a growing girl, so getting some hips and stuff, and it makes sense that I put on weight, but it was definitely more than what I ought to have for the amount of exercise and energy that I was expending. Then my HSC hit, which is our final exams in Sydney, and any time I go through exams, I seem to just balloon out. Finished school, had some holidays, had some time to get out and move around and not be so stressed and so worried, and lost weight again. Moved out of home, don't know if anyone else has experienced that, but moving out of home, you can't eat whatever you want to eat, and I kind of did it. Didn't eat the stuff that Mum had taught me to eat. Why don't we learn younger that Mum knows best? But I didn't. And so I had my little journey of putting on weight, having undergrad exams, putting on more weight after the exams, I had to lose weight again, put on more weight. Then I went on Weight Watchers, lost a significant amount. For me, that was kind of cool. Luckily, while I was at uni, we were doing nutrition at the time. I went on Weight Watchers, and so I decided not to do any of their products in the supermarket, so I wasn't having any of that low-fat diet stuff. I was just doing the counting calories thing, and that seemed to work, but of course it didn't last. And I came off the pill, and when I came off the pill, I put on weight. So for me, every time I come off the pill, every time I came off the pill, I put on weight, even though most people, when they go on the pill, they put on weight. For me, it was the opposite. So it's all to do with the estrogen balance, so the messages my body was sending. So our body actually doesn't speak calories, right? I heard this on Jimmy's podcast, I think it could have been Dwight Lundell, who was saying the body doesn't speak calories, it speaks hormones. Okay? So it depends on what your hormones are telling your body to do with the calories that come in. If your hormones are saying, hey, this is really good, we need to divert it to our muscles to burn, or we need to divert it to our fat cells to store, or we need to store some of it in our liver, that's what your body's going to do. It's going to read the signals that are told to it by the hormones. So anyway, okay, came off the pill, put on weight with that, had my master's degree, put on weight with that, lots of study, lots of hours at uni, not a lot of good nutrition. I was working in a job where I was walking about an hour a day and sometimes 2 hours a day. So I was getting movement, not cardio, not interval training, but I certainly wasn't a sluggish person. Anyway, finished my master's. I'm going to speed up because I think I'm taking too long on this slide. And then, so I finished my master's and lost weight for my wedding day. And to do that, I did shakes. What did you first? I did, Jenny Craig, and then shakes. And lost some weight with that, and then got food poisoning right before my wedding, lost another 2 kilos with that, yes. So you can lose weight, doesn't mean you're doing it healthy, right? But what I'm interested in now is building from the bottom up, going from the bottom up, building a nice solid foundation, healthy the whole way through, not just focusing on what I look like in the mirror, but actually listening to my body signals and measuring the outcomes there. So, came off the pill again after my wedding and put on more weight until I was the heaviest I'd ever been, and seen those pictures. And at that point, my husband, who's been incredibly supportive this whole way through, but because I'd put on weight so quickly, he took me aside and said, look, I don't care how you look, there's nothing to that. What worries me is that you put on weight so quickly this time that I'm worried that at 50, you're going to have a heart attack and leave me. And that was a bit of a big wake-up call for me because it wasn't anything to do with my image, which is what I beat myself up for years. And I got into this point, because I'd tried so many things over my life. I'd tried everything that I'd been told to do. I'd tried the low fat. I'd tried the exercise. I actually saw a gynaecologist while I was at uni working 3 jobs, and the gynaecologist said, look, all there is to it is diet and exercise. And I said, well, this is my diet, listen to it, because by that time I actually, doing the nutrition thing, had really swapped to what I considered a healthy diet. What I was told was a healthy diet, low fat, healthy whole grains, not much meat, but enough protein to keep me satisfied. And I said, and I'm walking, an hour to 2 hours a day. And she said, well, you just have to do more. You just have to walk 2 to 3 hours a day, or do 2 to 3 hours of exercise a day. And I went, I'm a student studying a master's degree. I'm working 3 jobs to support myself. Where am I going to find an extra 3 hours to exercise? How can I even do that? And not only that, I know that as we get older, we get fatter. So what happens when I'm 50? How many hours of exercise am I going to have to do at that point in time? So looking at my family, my dad's big, my mum's big, my dad's side of the family are all big. I thought, it's just my genes. That's just all there is to it. Why am I trying so hard? I'm just going to eat whatever the hell I want to eat. I'm going to eat like my husband eats. And so be it. I'll be happy with me. I'll do that work on the inside to make sure that I'm happy with me, whoever I am, however I am. So when Luke took me aside and had this little talk, I realised that giving up wasn't the option, that giving up wasn't actually what I should be doing. And so I started another journey. I remembered this point in time where the best I'd ever remembered feeling changing what I was eating was doing the anti-candida diet. So I went back to that, and I knew it was going to be hard. It was hard when we did it in Malaysia. We didn't stick to it when we got back to Australia because Australia has so much processed food, and Mum had to go back to work. We were living over there and Mum wasn't working, but we moved back and she had to go to work, and we didn't have time to spend all this time preparing every single meal from the beginning to the end and eating it straight away. So anyway, I went back and did the anti-candida diet, did it for 6 months, had some changes, which was cool, but I just couldn't. I was like a social hobbit. I couldn't get out. I didn't go anywhere because I would take my own food with me, and even though my self-esteem was okay to do that, I just felt like such an imposition on the people I was going to eat with. I'd bring my own food, and it's like, a big insult to the people you're eating with. So I was just like, you know what, gluten-free's out there. There's lots of gluten-free stuff out there. Let's do that. That at least is, I'm not getting the gluten, and mind you, with the anti-candida, the reflux, the heartburn that I'd been having, that I'd been downing a bottle of Mylanta for a week, which is incredibly embarrassing as a chiropractor, because we're sort of, anti any medication. Well, not anti, just, let's see if there's a better way of getting your body to deal with whatever it is. And so that went away with the gluten-free diet, and I was still losing weight. And then Luke listens to a whole heap of podcasts, and one of the podcasts he listened to was interviewing or talking. No, he's talking about this book, Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It by Gary Taubes. Has anyone heard of that book? Yeah. Changed my life. Absolutely changed everything for me. So when we read that, I realised that it was those hormone signals that actually were making a difference. And so I cut out the gluten-free stuff, cut out all those starches, cut out the gluten-free pasta and bread. Not that I was having a lot of it, but I cut it out and stopped having it. I would still occasionally have wheat, though. I thought, it's the heartburn that I need to stay away from the wheat from. And if I have a little bit now and then, once a week, maybe twice a week, that's not so bad. I don't get heartburn from that, so that's all right. Why we get fat. I lost a lot more weight with that, much faster. And then Luke came home from listening to another podcast. This was one of Jimmy's podcasts where he interviewed William Davis, who's the author of Wheat Belly. Anybody read that book? Oh, how mind-blowing was that? Yeah? So I read that and went, Luke came home. I was standing in front of the heater doing my nightly ritual of scratching the hell out of my stomach. And Luke came home and he just shook his head and said, "You've got to get off wheat." And I said, "But I am." And he said, "No, I mean really get off wheat. Really, truly, never, not at all." And I said, "Why? You mean never touch it again?" And he said, "Yep." And I grabbed him by the shoulders and I railed, "No, don't let me get off my wheat." And he just chuckled and he said, "You've got to listen to this podcast, babe." So the next day, on my way to work, I listened to this podcast and I kind of got what he was going on about. Because William Davis said, you can tell the people that are addicted to wheat, because when you tell them that they've got to give it up and never touch it again, they behave like you're trying to take their crack away from them. Right? And it's usually women in their 40s to 60s who've been having wheat for most of their life. Oops, that's kind of what I did. So I cut out wheat altogether. And in 6 weeks, I lost 7 kilos. After having already lost 23 kilos, I lost 7 in 6 weeks, which is the fastest weight loss I've ever had. And I know I said that this isn't about weight loss, but man, that was kind of cool. That was really kind of awesome. Hey? Well, it was probably only 2 to 3 times a week, 2 to 3 meals. I was having a small amount a week because I'd already cut down quite a bit by then. But for me, it obviously was there was just something in that was really creating that inflammation and swelling and the hormone dysregulation and all that sort of stuff. Now, not only did I lose all of that weight, but my crying uncontrollably went away. Almost. Yeah. That was controllable. When I say uncontrollable, I mean like 3 hours not being able to stop. Yeah. The rash went away. Warts went away, which is kind of cool. Not that I really like sharing that stuff, but hey, it's kind of cool that that went away as well. And now anytime I do eat wheat, I get itchy straight away in the areas that I tend to store fat. I get an immediate bloating sensation. Like I don't even have to swallow it yet, and my stomach's just going, "What in the world do you think you're doing? Please don't do that." There's still that opioid hard wiring that I'm overcoming. I'm not going to pretend I'm perfect. I'm a hell of a lot better. But we live in a modern society that sometimes, you know what I've found is that now that I've changed my diet, I go back to places, back to restaurants that I haven't been to for ages and go, "Oh, I remember that. That was so awesome. I've just got to have a little bit." And I have it, and it's nowhere near as good, and I learned my lesson. But I still keep doing the same bloody thing. Einstein, insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I don't know why I keep trying it. I know all this stuff, right? It's up here. But for some reason, there's this little subconscious side that just takes over and goes, "Do it anyway." And then I learn and go, "Oh, that's right. I should be listening. I should be listening to the signals my body's telling me." And I'm much better at that. But it's a journey and it's a learning process, and it's, it is what it is.